Good morning. Boy, that was a beautiful meditation and song to really harmonize and bring the message forward that I'd like to share from a very wise book from the 1930s, The Secret Path. Is anyone familiar with this book? Highly recommend it. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. That's enough. Just that knowingness. The secret path is a path of understanding, of knowing how to access that amazing and divine and sacred kingdom within you, your God self, or as the author Paul Bruton calls it, your overself. Back in the 30s, he talks about how we know so much about technology, the building of bridges and highways. And imagine if he was alive in these days with technology. We know so much about our smartphones. And if it wasn't for Siri, I probably wouldn't have made it here. But within us, there's a much greater understanding. And he wants to help us understand how to get to it. For the greatest teacher, the wisest healer, and your best friend is within you. When I was a little boy, I was very, very shy to speak in front of people especially, except when it comes to consciousness. And I was in Catholic school at the time, and I begged my mom every morning, can I please stay home and play with my stuffed animals because they understood me more and I understood them more. And she often said, no, you have to go out and learn. Like, the teacher has to teach you. And I had a great conflict with what I was teaching. I was gifted with the ability to question a lot as a child. And one of my big challenges was I love dinosaurs. I had a room full of dinosaurs. My grandmother worked for a toy factory and brought me lots and lots of dinosaurs, so I felt comfort in them. So I was really passionate one day in second grade when we were talking about the dinosaurs and learning about them. But on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, we had to leave school early, the Catholic kids, to go to catechism. And drudging on to catechism, the nun that day said we were going to learn about Adam and Eve. And she talked about these wonderful stories from the Old Testament. And I just raised my hand and I said, well, where did the dinosaurs fit in? And she didn't like that question, but her answer was very disturbing to me, and I've forgiven her. Because she said, Satan put those bones here to try to make us to be disbelievers. And I said, I don't believe it. I won't buy it. But it's just, I give this example because many times we're exposed to information, especially going into a political situation. Just remember the kingdom of heaven is within you. But intellect is but a machine, we're taught in this book. It makes a splendid servant, but it's not such a good master. So really align with your divine self, that higher aspect of yourself. Paul so wisely introduces this whole idea in this short passage, which is from the sages of Greece. They asked these questions at a council. What is the oldest of all things? God, because he's always existed. What is the most beautiful of all things? The universe, because it's the work of God. What is the greatest of all things? Space, because it contains all that has been created. What is the most constant of all things? Hope, because it still remains with us even after we've lost everything. What is the best of all things? Virtue, because without it there's nothing good. What is the quickest of all things? Thought, because in less than a minute it travels to the end of the universe. What is the strongest of all things? Necessity, which makes us face all the dangers of life. What is the easiest of all things? To give advice. But what is the most difficult of all things? And they pondered and pondered and pondered, and they said, to know thyself. So let this moment be the science of self. We spend our lifetimes learning how to communicate with others, but how well are we at communicating with our own self? I'm a big fan of intuition. And in fact, today I'm going to present a program after the service about intuition. And really what intuition is, it's listening to your soul. It's listening to your spirit. It's getting familiar with that beautiful little voice that's within you. Again, that wise teacher, that wise healer. And it provides you all those mystical messages of all the gurus, of all the great books that have been written, of all the great sages, all the great philosophers, all the great teachers. All that is within you. And Paul teaches you don't have to go outside yourself to do that. Again, he says, we built great bridges to span rivers of monstrous width, but we are unable to span the simple problem of, who am I? So how often during the course of the day do you take time to just sit and reflect of that I presence? That I presence that eats and sleeps and drinks. That I presence that has a belief. That I presence that serves. Who are you? You are the divine. The kingdom of heaven is within you. And as you commune with others, you get to witness that great and divine sacred being within you. Because within the eyes of those you share are reflected the true self. And this is why relationships are so important to us as we come and commune on the earth plane. Is because in the earth plane we get the opportunity to constantly reevaluate who we are by looking in the mirror of our friends and our foes. And our greatest teachers are those that create the greatest type of either conflict or love within us. Because it's always an opportunity to get to know, this is about me and this is who I am. And this is who I'm showing the universe who I am. And so look at every relationship as an opportunity to express yourself and to know yourself and to show the universe who you are. Paul refers to this term of over-self. And over-self is your higher self. It's your God self. And as today we went into the meditation, we were guided to that light, that source. And then we got to hear beautiful music about how God is within us. If we can walk away with just this simple truth, there would be no conflict, there would be no war, there would be no grief, there would be no anxiety. Those all add up to heaven. And that's a beautiful place to be. The earth plane's a beautiful place to come because, again, it gives us the opportunity as a soul and a spirit to come and feel the life experience. We could sit up in the world of spirit at that higher vibration and we could read about what life was like. We could read what fear was like. We could read about what guilt was like. But to actually truly come here and experience it, it allows our soul to elevate its presence, to celebrate its presence, and to ultimately show its divine self. Paul reminds us in the book that as we're born as babes into this world, we know this. And as we leave as sages, we know this. But where he really wants us to focus on knowing is that space in between birth and death in this physical plane. Life is truly a game of perception. It's what you see it and what vantage point you see yourself from. And when you dive into the idea of yourself as part of God, The Native Americans call that seeing your life from the perspective of the hawk. And it's a beautiful place to see yourself. A wise Indian seer said that to know yourself is to know God, for anything unseen is seen, anything unheard is heard, anything unfelt is felt. That the self is truly the ruler of the kingdom of heaven. So I'd like you to do this for a moment. I'd like you to close your eyes, sit still, and take a deep breath. And I want you to just focus on one little mantra. Who am I? Who am I? And as you reflect, who is the thinker thinking this? Who is the I that believes and thinks and feels? Who is the I that works and plays and speaks? Feel the presence of this I. Evoke the real being that lies behind those eyes. Those eyes that look at you each time you look into the mirror. As you go within, explore this inner mystery, this best kept secret about yourself. Who am I? Who am I leads to the knowing of self. So take a deep cleansing breath. And what I encourage you to do is each day, take a moment and just go in and greet that beautiful I presence. As Moses was taught from the burning bush, I am that I am. There is a piece of God within you that's beautiful, it's glorious, it's splendid. It's the essence of yourself. The secret path is simply going within to know yourself, to understand yourself, to love yourself. Truth is so simple. Again, the mind tends to want to complicate things. But the ultimate is self. The ultimate is knowing that the kingdom of heaven is within you. So today, I send you blessings and hope that you spend some time to really excavate yourself, to discover, to rediscover the essence of who you are. And know that no matter what comes within your path, that nothing can defeat heaven, because heaven is a high consciousness. It's a high perspective that is only filled with the highest vibration of love, compassion, kindness, understanding. And as some of the members here have wisely demonstrated, the sense that they feel when they come in this room, take what you feel here out. We're all sages. We're all learned souls. Let us be the teachers, because as we teach, we learn. And as we learn, we're inspired to know ourselves. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. Namaste.